Hello, my name is Cheryl Meyer, otherwise known as Cheryl M. Health Muse, and I am a health coach. I want to welcome you to my podcast, It Feels Good to Feel Good, Future-Proof Your Health. This is a weekly show that will share lifestyle changes that you can make to support your health yourself. Why do I want to share this information with you? 7 years ago, after being a business owner for 20 years, I woke up one morning in horrific pain where every bone and every joint in my body hurt. I went to the doctor. She ran lots of tests, and then she ran some more, and then she ran some more, and finally she called me and announced she was going to give me steroids, but there was absolutely nothing wrong with me and I should seek therapy. I knew something was wrong. I hurt. So she told me I would be on steroids for the rest of my life, and I refused that I was going to have a life of pain and pills. So why was I going to take steroids if there was nothing wrong with me? So I dug in and started researching, and I turned my business over to my staff. I found a functional doctor who confirmed that I had autoimmune disease. By making a series of significant lifestyle changes that I could do for myself, 5 years later, I had returned to relative health. The best part is that I am now 70, and I feel better now than I did when I was 50. I no longer hurt, which is huge. I will always have autoimmune disease, but losing the pain has been amazing. I went back to school at 67 and became a health coach because I want to share everything that I learned with others. And I wrote a book called It Feels Good to Feel Good, Learn to Eliminate Toxins, Reduce Inflammation, and Feel Great Again, as the manual I wish that I had had when I got sick, and my book has won 13 awards. So whether you want to future-proof your health and grow old with dignity and grace without dementia and chronic pain and disease, which you don't need to get, or whether or not you already have a chronic condition like autoimmune disease or cancer or heart disease, and you want to learn about what things you can do to improve your long-term health, or whether you want to improve the health of your families and raise healthy children, because 53% of our children have a chronic condition, I look forward to sharing all this information with you. I will tell you, it truly does feel good to feel good, so let's get started. I look forward to having you join me here every week, and I want to give you hope that if you have chronic pain or chronic disease, you can make changes that will improve your health, and if you don't want to go there, you're going to be fine if you listen to the show and put these things into work. I want to give you information so that you can grow old and have a better tomorrow. So thank you for joining me. Let's get started. Welcome to another show of It Feels Good to Feel Good, Future-Proof Your Health. And this show and the next two are all going to be on the liver. Why all on the liver? Because the liver is the workhorse of the body, and it impacts what goes on with every other organ that you have. It impacts heart disease, it impacts your lungs, it impacts your kidneys, it impacts your pancreas. The liver is a critical organ, and I don't think we give it enough love. So the first podcast I do on the liver is going to be on what is the liver and what does it do? And you're going to be amazed because it does a lot of things for the body, for as little respect as we give it. The second thing is going to be what foods we should be eating to support our liver, which is the best way to create a healthy liver. And then the third podcast on the liver is going to be about supplements, what they are and what they do. And you're not going to just take my word for it. You're going to do your own research, and then you're going to talk to your medical provider to make sure that the supplements I'm recommending that I'm taking, which is what I'm going to discuss, won't interact poorly with anything else that you're doing. If you're on medication for your liver, talk to your doctor about if you did the things that I'm going to talk about in these 3 podcasts, could you wean off of the medication? Because as you'll discover, medication is one of the problems that makes the liver slow down and get diseased. So we want to take as little medication as we can get away with, and we want to take holistic approaches to everything if we can. But if you're under a doctor's care, you follow his directions and you wean yourself off of these things with his blessing. I currently am working with someone who has a fatty liver. She did not want to go on the medication, so the doctor gave her a year, and we just got back our first report, and she has made huge strides towards having a healthier liver. So we're continuing on with the work that we're doing to bring her liver back to health. You can do that too. So let me start with what the liver does and why it's important and how many people have the diseases of the liver. Then the second podcast is going to be about the food, and the third podcast is going to be about supplements. Okay, it's a lot of information, and it's going to be over the course of a little bit more than 3 hours, but I hope you'll all listen to it, because I am putting this much research and this much time into talking about the liver because it's important. And why is it important to me? Well, a year ago, I discovered I have a fatty liver. And I wasn't surprised because of two things that have happened in my life. The first one is I had mononucleosis in my late 20s, and I got it so bad, I turned jaundice, and my liver function has never been the same since. And I didn't eat well until I got autoimmune disease in my mid 60s. So, not surprised that I had a fatty liver. The second thing is that I was allergic to aspirin. So as a child, the only thing that was available for me for a cold or for the flu or for pain was cherry flavored liquid acetaminophen, children's Tylenol. When I was 18, they came out with it in a pill form. Hallelujah. I now had something to take for headaches and body pains and yada yada yada. And so that was the pill I took my whole life. I couldn't take aspirin or ibuprofen. But I also took it with alcohol, and I took too much of it. And they now know that Tylenol or acetaminophen, which is not just in a standalone pill, by the way, it's in all kinds of cold medication and cough medication, and it's in all kinds of things. And we're taking them all, and we're getting way too much acetaminophen in our bodies. And it's far more dangerous for the liver than they ever realized. And so, yep, it impacted my liver. So my liver's been unhappy for a long time. And so I started doing this research because I wanted to understand my liver, and I wanted to understand what I could do to help the health of my liver. And I think it's important that as your health coach in your friendly neighborhood muse, I want to inspire you to take care of this extremely important organ. So let's get started. Over 100 million people in America have a fatty liver. That's a pretty frightening statistic. 140 million have autoimmune disease, and of those, 100 million have a fatty liver. And children have doubled with fatty liver disease in the last 20 years. And you know I'm concerned about our kids because over 50% of them have a chronic illness, which is frankly unacceptable. So we'll talk about that as we go through this too. So if you're a mom, or if you just care about your health and the health of your family, this is a very important information, so please listen to it. Liver disease and liver failure becomes as the result of scar tissue forming so that the liver can no longer function. There are many different forms of liver disease and damage. According to the American Liver Foundation, 10% of Americans have a fatty liver. 10%. That's a lot. Making it one of the top 10 causes of disease in the United States alone. Globally, liver disease is a major cause of illness and death. And it doesn't have to be that way. The liver regenerates. So if you start to put healthy habits into place, you can impact the health of your liver. So it's important that you pay attention and you do these things. The diseases that it gets are Hep C, Hep B, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and alcoholic liver disease. The liver is what I call the workhorse of the body. It's one of the hardest working organs that we have, and you're going to be blown away by how much it does for you. The liver works tirelessly to detoxify our blood, to produce the bile needed to digest fat, to break down hormones, to store essential vitamins and minerals like iron. And if you haven't been eating a plant-based diet, or or meats that eat their species specific diet, then you need to be getting regular exercise and making sure that you limit your alcohol and toxins, then you probably have a fatty liver too. And not everybody who has it knows it. I didn't know it until I got a ultrasound for something else, and they came back and went, "Woo, you've got a fatty liver," which actually wasn't a surprise to me. I ate poorly for a large portion of my life. Today, we're faced with so many environmental toxins occurring in our homes, our places of work, and our food supply. So it's essential for general health and well-being to keep our livers in functioning order. Now, it's also important that you find out where the toxins are. That's why I wrote my book, It Feels Good to Feel Good, Learn to Eliminate Toxins, Reduce Inflammation, and Feel Great Again, because the toxins were everywhere when I started to research. By eliminating hundreds of them, I actually returned to a place where I no longer have pain from my autoimmune disease. I still have autoimmune disease. I still have a fatty liver, which I'm working on, but I can impact that with the lifestyle habits that I have adopted. Buy my book. I give you a running start for where the toxins are. I was shocked. And if you buy my book, write to me. I'll send you the workbook that goes with it, because you can write down where you find them when you're reading my book. And when you run out of that old icky toxic item is when you replace it. And you go to a binder that you've put all these sheets in, and you look up what you're going to replace each item with once you need to buy something new, and it's right there at your fingertips. So get started eliminating toxins now. I believe that toxins are the reason that our healthcare system is broken, because there are so many toxins in our world that our bodies can't keep up with it. And the body really wants to heal until it can't. When we get too many toxins in our body, we can't keep up. So that's what this is all about. There are more than 100 types of different kinds of liver diseases, including fatty liver syndrome, jaundice, genetic disorders, various viruses like Hep A, Hep B, Hep C. There's even a Hep E. And liver disease is caused by a wide range of factors, many of which are lifestyle related, including poor diet, no more standard American diet of fast food and processed food. Your liver is unhappy eating them, including too much alcohol, drug use, including pharmaceuticals and over-the-counter drugs, drinking too much alcohol, drug use, obesity, infections, and then environmental pollutants. It's the liver's responsibility to process nutrients absorbed by the intestines so that they're efficiently absorbed. The liver also regulates blood composition to balance protein, blood, fat, and sugar, and it removes all those toxins from the blood and breaks down both alcohol and medications. So right there, it's an amazing organ, but there's more. I'm in a liver detox group on Facebook run by a functional nutritionist named Blanche Sharif, and she explains that for good detoxing, and people are always asking me how to detox, you detox by eating real organic food. But for good detoxing, your kidney and your liver need to be good working order. And for good working order, you need vitamin D. So the next time you go to your doctor, have them check your vitamin D levels. For years, they said you shouldn't take a vitamin D supplement. Ends up we're not in the sun very much anymore, or we're blocking the sun with sunscreens. And so we're not getting the amount of vitamin D that we need to keep us healthy. And that's important for your liver and your kidney health, as is zinc. And while I'm talking about getting your vitamin D checked, also get your magnesium checked. Magnesium is responsible for 325 different enzyme reactions in your body, and it's important to almost every function that you have. So make sure you have adequate magnesium as well. People with kidney problems are often zinc deficient. So there's foods that will drive up your blood sugar, that will damage your kidneys, and that includes high sugar diets, cane sugar, fructose sugar, high sodium diets are all things to avoid so that you have healthy liver and kidney function, and so that you stop harming both your liver and your kidneys. All the same foods that harm the liver harm the kidneys, so take care of your liver and you'll also be protecting your kidneys at the same time. When looking at the liver, it's important that you look at the entire body. Now, conventional medicine tends to look at each body system and throw a pill at whatever is ailing you. A functional doctor looks at the whole body because they understand that the whole body works in coordination. There's a wonderful book by a woman named Dr. Libby Weaver, who, and the book's called Accidentally Overweight, but buy the book and read it for more than just losing weight, because it talks about how all the body systems have to be healthy in order for your body to be healthy so that because they all interact with each other. And she explains that, and that you can't lose weight unless all your body organs are working in harmony together. It's a brilliant book. We bought them as Christmas presents for all our friends because we enjoyed the book so much and we learned so much from it. So modern medicine doesn't address anything but parts. Here's an idea of what this means. The pancreas, the gallbladder, the heart function, your digestive system, your immune system, and your autonomic nervous system are all connected to your liver. And part of that, the gallbladder, I just want to make a quick comment. At the end of the third video on the liver, I actually do a section just on the gallbladder. The gallbladder is not a throwaway organ, so don't let anybody tell you that's what they want to do. Pay attention to what I share in the gallbladder portion of the podcast, because you can also heal your gallbladder so that you don't have to have it removed, because it's what makes some of your vitamins fat soluble so that they can be stored in your body. So it's really important to your digestion and to the functioning of your body and the functioning of what those vitamins do for you. So eat to have a healthy gallbladder, and don't allow them to think about taking it away. And by the way, the appendix is also not a throwaway part. We'll talk about that at some point too. Researchers looking at CT scans of 400 patients found that those with non-alcoholic fatty disease also were likely to have coronary artery disease. Now, how many people do you think die of coronary artery disease a year? It's not 100 million people, it's 800 million people. And 160 million of them die before they're 65. So if you want to improve your heart health, you need to improve your liver health. Your liver is where triglycerides and cholesterol are made. And so those dramatically impact your heart as well. So diet is important, and eating organic is important. So we'll piece all of those and tie them together in a little bow so that you understand how important they are for each other. The effect of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which actually is stronger than the other traditional risk factors that are discussed about with heart disease: smoking, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, metabolic syndrome, and being male. The liver is a bigger impact on heart disease than all of those things. And while we're mentioning cholesterol, understand we need cholesterol for our brain and for other functions in our body. They're discovering more about cholesterol. What we need are big particle cholesterol, not little particle cholesterol. And so work with your doctor, because there's new tests on cholesterol. Find out what kind of cholesterol you have and do your own research and catch up on what's going on with science, because it will help you have robust conversations with your doctor, who believes that you should be taking some kind of special medication just for cholesterol that is going to trigger you to have other problems. I was on cholesterol medication for 2 weeks, and I think it's the thing that put me over into toxic load and into autoimmune disease, because I was taking Tylenol so that I could survive taking the cholesterol medication, because it made my body hurt so bad that we decided it wasn't worth it to be taking a pill to take a pill. So thank God I got off of them in 2 weeks, but it wasn't too long after that I toppled over into toxic load with autoimmune disease. So in my mind, they might be connected, because it was just one more medication that put my liver into trouble, that put my toxic load into trouble. So it's important to know everything there is about heart disease, and how your liver impacts your heart is one of the things you need to do. Heart disease is reversible using natural methods, and it's also avoidable if you follow the dietary suggestions I have for the liver. Clinically, it's been shown that working on the liver can improve your heart health and your heart symptoms, and it's a critical piece in healing not only the heart, but the thyroid, the kidneys, and autoimmune. The liver is tied to autoimmune because if the liver detox pathways get overloaded, it causes the immune system to become hyperstimulated. Remember, I talked about leaky gut and how things leak into your blood and your body does what it's supposed to do and screams attack and it goes after them. Well, when it goes into your blood, the place that it goes is over to your liver, and that's where it's screaming attack. So it's important that you understand how all this works and how the toxins all impact your body, your liver, your kidneys, your heart, everything. So the hyperstimulated immune system causes excessive inflammatory chemicals and antibodies, which then attack the body's own systems and cells. This is what an autoimmune reaction is. And remember when we talked about it under leaky gut, it also is the thing that then triggers your body to attack where you're weak. So it mimics other body tissue in your body. For me, it was my joints and my muscles. That's where I had horrific pain. For somebody else, it might be their thyroid, and because Hashimoto's or Graves, it might become the brain and become Parkinson's or dementia. It might be your lower gut and become IBS, Crohn's, celiac, or ulcerative colitis. Autoimmune impacts all of that, and it all is happening in the liver, and the liver is impacting all of that. So treat your liver well, and these things won't happen. And you want to have a strong immune system, and treating your liver with extra special care will help you do that, because I don't think that Corona-19 is the last thing that's going to be coming at us as a super virus. So start building your immune system now by eating organic and eating the right food. If you need help in terms of how to afford eating organic, I have a whole chapter on 30 ways to save on food in my second book. But I also want you to think about, where are you spending your money now, and where could you save money so that you have money to spend on organic? If you don't have money to buy everything organic, at least look up the Dirty Dozen, Clean 15, and if it's on the dirty side, buy those things organic. And you can do that by not stopping for coffee every morning on your way to work. Make organic coffee at home. Coffee is a very dirty crop, and you don't need the toxins from your coffee going into your body either. And that's a great way to save money, because you can make your own and take it with you. And frankly, it's more delicious. I buy Moringa, and I buy Cubana, and I buy organic, and it is absolutely delicious. And he's trying to protect the environment and the health of his growers, as well as the little towns that they live in. So I approve of his mission, and I love his coffee. Okay, so let's calm down and avoid and reverse chronic conditions, and let's talk about it. Let's start with, what does the liver do? The liver is the largest organ in the human body, and it sits on the upper right side of the belly, sits right here, and it connects to the gallbladder directly. It's involved in dozens of body functions, including it removes all the toxins from the body by cleaning the blood. It converts nutrients from foods. It produces bile. It converts fat, and it stores glucose. It processes nutrients absorbed by the intestines so that they are efficiently absorbed. It filters blood coming from the digestive tract. It's involved in storing blood and making blood clotting possible and breaking down damaged blood cells so that they can be eliminated. It's dissecting and converting nutrients available in foods once they reach the digestive system. So, for example, the liver helps to metabolize proteins by changing amino acids so that they can be used for energy or used to make carbohydrates or fats. It breaks down nutrients, it stores nutrients, and it helps to spread nutrients throughout the body via the bloodstream, keeping the amount of nutrients in the blood supply at optimal levels. It produces amino acids. It transforms toxins and eliminates oxidative stress. What causes cancer? Oxidative stress. So the liver can keep you from getting cancer as well. This way, the way the liver achieves all of this is by producing the antioxidant glutathione. Glutathione detoxifies the body and defends against disease, and the chemicals in the food, water, air make up furniture, clothing, and cleaning supplies, and then food deplete your supply of glutathione. The other thing that directly impacts glutathione is glyphosate or Roundup, which is what's being sprayed on our conventional crops. Another good reason to eat organic. We need enough glutathione for the detoxification of benzene, heavy metals, including mercury, cadmium, and lead, and BPA. BPA is that lining on the inside of cans that's also a hormone disruptor. So your liver tries to get rid of those chemicals from your body. Where there's increased exposure to environmental chemicals, the levels of glutathione synthesis decrease. Foods you need are ones that are high in amino acids that contain sulfur, which help boost glutathione levels. The best ones are grass-fed beef, which there's a new study that also shows that they give you the phytonutrients you need, just like you're eating organic plant, leafy green and other color rainbow vegetables. The best ones are grass-fed beef, garlic, broccoli, asparagus, and avocados. Eliminating toxic waste that's left behind once the food is broken down is part of the function of the liver. Removing toxins from the bloodstream, including bilirubin, ammonia, and others. It neutralizes toxins and detoxifies along with the kidneys and the colon. Now, remember, you only have 3 pathways for toxins to get out of your body. They go in and out of your skin, so that's one pathway to get rid of toxins. They go through your liver and then either out your kidneys or out your colon. And those are your second and your third pathways to getting rid of toxins. Regulating blood composition to balance protein, fat, and sugar. It balances your blood sugar. So if you're a diabetic, taking really good care of your liver is even more important. It helps you make new blood. It regulates blood pressure. It destroys old red blood cells. If you get an A1 test, you know that you're taking the average of 1 month, 2 months, 3 month, and 4 month blood cells, because 1 month old cells are brand new. 2 month old cells are medium old, 3 month old cells are getting ready to die, and 4 month old cells are dying, and the liver is the one responsible to get rid of them. So when you're taking an A1 test, you're getting the average of the sugar and the insulin level in all your blood cells at once before they start to die and a new batch comes in. They produce essential chemicals to help your blood to clot properly. They produce essential proteins and cholesterol. They store minerals, iron, and vitamin A. They fight infection. There's where I want you to boost your immune system by taking good care of your liver. And they store certain vitamins and minerals so that your body has them when they're needed. They help produce hormones. They also ditch old hormones or excess hormones out of your body. They support thyroid health, and they break down and metabolize alcohol and medications. Your liver is the first pass for medication. It scrutinizes medications before they gain access to the body. That's a direct quote from Carlos Garcia. He's an MD who specializes in liver health. The liver is responsible for sorting through the chemicals in your bloodstream, including those you intentionally ingest from prescriptive or over-the-counter medication. Many medications are overprescribed or taken incorrectly or mixed with the wrong things. So if you do take medications regularly, learn how they impact your liver and carefully follow your dosing instructions and talk to your doctor to find out if there's any natural remedies that you could turn to instead. And own the process. Look up the medications that your doctor's putting you on and understand what the good things are that they're doing and what the downsides are. And then there's also a wonderful book called Drug Muggers by a pharmacist who's also a functional practitioner named Susie Cohen. Drug Muggers talks to you about what drugs take away from your body, causing new problems because you're taking them, like metformin takes some things from my body that I need. And so I need to be aware of what's mugging my body from the medications that I'm on, because I am diabetic, so that you're aware of that too. And then you can adjust and supplement to take care of your body and those things that the medication is removing. The liver filters and eliminates absorbed substances from the large intestine. And emotionally, I love this from Dr. Carlos Garcia, it is where we deposit anger. So if you have an anger management problem, you're impacting the health of your liver. The liver is what helps your body to detoxify, and it produces bile. More, it breaks down and removes excess hormones. It manages the conversion of fats from your diet, especially omega-3s, which are the good fats, and it manufactures triglycerides and cholesterol. Where do you think triglycerides come from? They come from sugar. They don't come from fat. So make sure you really need to detox off the sugar. And I'm going to start running a sugar detox a couple times a year. So follow me on Facebook so that you know it's going to be a 4-week course for you to ditch the sugar so that you get back food freedom, because sugar is as addictive as cocaine and heroin. And so you need to get off of it because it turns off the hormone that regulates your hunger. And until you get rid of the sugar addiction, you're going to have a really hard time maintaining a healthy weight. Taking carbohydrates that you consume and turns them into glucose, which is a form of energy to be used for later use. And it interacts, like I said before, with all your other organs, like your gallbladder, your stomach, your spleen. It receives digested particles or toxins and decides what to do with them. It circulates them around through the blood, and then it eliminates them before they can cause damage to your body. Wow, that's a lot. That's what your liver does for you. Are you beginning to understand why I say it's the workhorse and why you need to give it extra special love? You don't need a fatty liver. You don't need any of the HEPs. You need to have a healthy liver because it does a whole lot for your body and for your health. Now, an improved liver function can do the following for you. It increases your energy. It gives you clear skin. Remember, I did a podcast on skin problems are an inside job. It gives you more regular menstrual cycle and reduced PMS. It gives you fewer infections and stronger immunity. It gives you fresher breath and oral health. I'm going to come back to that one. It gives you freedom from sinus pain. It gives you less digestive complaints and more regularity. And it gives you a positive mood and a sharper mind. Let's go back to fresher breath. By eliminating all those toxins from my body, I used to have a horrible problem with body odor, and now I have none. I was realizing when I showered the other day, I no longer even use deodorant half the time because my body just doesn't smell and my breath is sweet. So those are all functions of the liver, and I don't have all the high toxicity anymore. So my body is not smelling a lot anymore. When I do get a little bit of body odor, it makes me stop and wonder, what did I have in my life that was toxic that entered my body so that I can clean it up and purge it quickly? What does it really mean to detoxify? We're constantly bombarded and constantly surrounded with chemicals in our environment. Some of these chemicals are natural and healthy. One of the chapters in my second book is about forest bathing. I loved learning about trees. I'm actually quite fascinated with trees. Well, you need to get in the forest as often as possible because trees, when you're in the middle of the forest, release chemicals that are good for you. They're not releasing them for you. They're releasing them for all their little children that are around them and for the other species, similar trees in their area. But those chemicals are so potent, they've even been known to impact the body with cancer. So you need to be able to get into the forest so that you have good liver function and that some of the chemicals are healthy for you, and the ones from the forest definitely are. But a lot of the things that we use are not healthy for us, including that stuff we spray to take the smells out of our environment. It's toxic. Perfumes are toxic. Smells are toxic. Air fresheners are toxic. All the smells in our cleaning supplies are toxic. So if it smells, it's not good for you. And so start to get rid of it. Essential oils sometimes are toxic and sometimes are not. There are different essential oils really bad for your animals than from your children. So know which are which. And yes, I have chapters on both those things in my second book as well. So know what all these scents are doing to your body. And then you want to do things that will give you a healthy liver. So you want to optimize the function of liver and minimize the assault. And that means giving up all the frankenfoods, which are the processed foods and the fast foods. Now, there's very little redeeming in fast food at all. It's fake food. So you don't need to be eating it, because by eating it, you're starving your body. When I read that, I didn't really understand it. I was fat. So how was I starving my body? Well, I wasn't giving my body any nutrition. So the little bit it was getting in nutrition, it was holding on to for dear life. Processed food, if you don't know what that chemical is when you read the box, including stuff like natural flavors, which is usually MSG, which I bet you know is not good for you. So they hide it under 39 other different names. If you don't know what that thing is, then don't buy it. Put it back on the shelf. You don't need it in your body, and your body doesn't know what it is either. So what you put into your body is super important, and you don't need frankenfood. And then you also don't need some foods that you're told deceptively are good for you, like milk. You don't need milk for your bones, because what it's doing is it's not giving calcium to your bones. It's robbing your bones of calcium, because milk is acidic, and your body's going to protect your kidneys. And so it's going to steal the calcium from your bones to protect your kidneys if you're drinking milk. So if you're going to drink milk, there's a couple of rules. It should be raw milk. It should be organic milk, and it should be full fat milk. If you're drinking non-fat or low fat, they're getting the best part of the milk and you're getting the crud. So make sure, if you really want to have milk and you really want to have cheese, you're using full fat and you're using organic. Or if you're going to eat cheese, you want it to be French cheese so it doesn't have all the hormones and the crud in it. Okay? So we're faced with environmental toxins that are in our homes, our place of work, and our food supply, and it's essential for our general health and our well-being to ditch them so that we have good liver health. Your liver does as well as it can with all the crud you put into it until it can't. You need a healthy liver to combat toxic junk and chemicals, and it means your body stays healthy, you don't get sick, and you have plenty of energy. Okay, medications. Limit your toxic exposure. We come in contact daily with all forms of toxins through the air we breathe, the foods we eat, and the products we use. So it's best to avoid breathing in and touching toxins, especially by limiting the amount of chemical household, cleaning, and beauty products we use. They're not regulated, and they don't even tell people like EWG what's in them, because they're proprietary and they're lousy for you. So whenever possible, start at the bottom of the ingredient level with your cosmetics or your cleaning supplies and work up until you find something toxic, and then put it away. Put it into a big bin and get it out of your house, because it's off-gassing and you don't need that in your house. And then find things that are lower toxic. There are a lot of organic chemicals, organic cosmetics out there now. When I started doing this, there weren't. And for cleaning supplies, my favorite is Branch Basics, which is EWG, who studies the toxicity of all these products. It's a 0 to a 1. Wow, they're plant enzymes that clean better than any of those toxic cleaning supplies in your house. I love Branch Basics. I fell in love with it first because I eat a lot of eggs, organic eggs, free run eggs, eggs that eat their species specific, chickens that eat their species specific diet of berries and grass and bugs. But I still, when I eat them, it gets stuck on the plate, and I hate that. I put Branch Basic on it. It eats it away in 5 minutes and slides off the plate. I use Branch Basics to clean my counters, to do my laundry, to clean my kitchen floors, and to clean my toilets. I have kitties who sometimes drink from the toilet. I don't want them drinking toxic chemicals that are left behind as residuals, so I use Branch Basics to clean my toilets. And I don't want my children crawling around or picking stuff off the floor that's got toxins in them. They're bad for all of us. They're bad for the entire family, and they're bad for your fur babies. So know what you're using. It's important. And I have a blog on my website about what to use to clean for COVID when your kids go back to school. It's an important article because while we're saving the kids from COVID, we might be poisoning them with the cleaning. The best things to clean with are hot, soapy water and Branch Basics, but you can also use things like hydrogen peroxide and white vinegar separately. You do one and then you do the other, and all of those things will kill the COVID without killing your child. So beauty products, they're not regulated either. Make sure you know what you're using and that they're safe. There's a couple of apps that will tell you what's safe, but EWG has a whole section devoted to safe cosmetics. So get familiar with the EWG site and look your products up. If they're not in EWG, the ingredients are in there. So again, start at the bottom until you hit something really toxic, and bam, that means you don't use it and you find something that's lower in toxins. So where there are toxins, they all go through the liver. If the liver can't make them water soluble and help them exit the body, it makes the decision to send them out to the liver to be stored in our fat and in our bones. So those extra toxins take up residence. One of the things that your liver does that with is glyphosate, which is Roundup, and other chemicals from factory farming. Another good reason to be eating organic. And so you need to find a place in your budget where you can afford organic. And if you're not eating out all the time and you're not buying processed food all the time, although it can be cheaper in the long run, it's way more expensive because it's going to make you sick. It's going to give you chronic illness, it's going to give you inflammation, and it's going to give you disease. So it's better to clean it up front and get rid of those things. Pesticides are fat-soluble toxins, so they get stored in the liver. It's almost virtually impossible to completely avoid pesticide exposure, so knowing how to remove the pesticides and mitigate their effects is vital. Toxins tend to collect in the fat and the tissues around your liver, and so you need to buy organic whenever possible to reduce your pesticide exposure. These are the other things that get stored in your fat and your bones. Food, GMOs, food additives and preservatives, food-like products like fast food. It's not real, it's food-like products. Synthetic chemicals that are in your processed food, the lining in cans, which are endocrine disruptors, conventional meat, they put hormones, they put antibiotics, they put all kinds of GMO feed into your animal. So he's loaded with all kinds of icky things. And whatever your animal eats is what you eat. So it's important not to eat that. Omega-6 oils are mostly genetically modified now. So all your vegetable oils that they used to tell us were good for us are really terrible for us. Soy oil, corn oil, all the vegetable oils, you need to ditch them. What you need to be using instead, including canola oil, by the way, it's not good for you. It's genetically modified, which means it has glyphosate or Bt toxin in it. I have a whole podcast about that if you want to learn the difference between those things. So what do you need is our omega-3s, olive oil, but don't cook with it because it has a low burn point, avocado oil, ghee, coconut oil, grapeseed oil. Those are all good choices for oils and good for your body. And you also need fatty fish that's wild, like salmon. It's also really good for you. And you're going to say, but wild caught salmon is too expensive. You don't need to be eating huge portions of wild caught fish or your grass-fed or species specific meat because you're only going to eat a small amount. You don't need the huge slab of protein on your plate. Your plate should be 75% organic vegetables, mostly leafy green and a little bit starchy vegetables. So mostly you need to be eating all the leafy greens, and hark, they're also really good for your liver. So it's a double whammy. Your cosmetics are toxic, your cleaning supplies are toxic, all your fragrances, including your perfume, and all your air fresheners are toxic. There's all kinds of toxins in your water. Get a water report from your city, find out what's in there, or have your well checked. The first thing we did was buy just a filter system for our kitchen sink, and that was the water we drank and the water we cooked with. And then we bought stainless steel bottles that we put water into, so we no longer buy plastic water bottles, which you're paying 1,200 times more for the water in them, and they have healthy doses of toxics in them because that plastic is leaching into the water and it's releasing little microbes of plastic into the water, so it's poisoning you. So carry your own water and buy bigger bigger jugs that are stainless to carry in your car so that you can refill your bottles when you need more. I no longer drink from plastic unless I'm flying on a trip. So ditch all that stuff. Your body doesn't need it. And remember, it's about toxic load. So every toxin you eliminate, you are one step closer to health. And then the lack of sleep causes toxic, and that impacts your liver. Toxic stress impacts your liver. So I have a little stress book. I also have a chapter in both my books on how to eliminate stress, doing breathing exercise and little 3-minute exercises. Those are important so that you let the top off before it crosses over into toxic. And you need over 7 hours of continuous sleep a night. I have a really hard time with that one because the older I get, the less I can sleep the full 7 hours. But I'm working on it because I know it's important. And then the last thing that, 2 more things impact the liver. Toxic relationships and anger lives in the liver. So if you're having an anger management problem, it's impacting your liver and slowing down the function of your liver. And then added nitrates and nitrites, which are found in convenience food, fast foods, and lunch meats, are linked to serious health conditions. The only lunch meats I eat are Applegate Organic because he wanted to make sure that he was creating something really healthy for the body and not all of those things that you buy that have the nitrates and the nitrites in them that are not good for you. So let's talk about liver disease symptoms, signs, and types. As I said, 100 million people have fatty liver in one way or another. So let's talk about the root causes. Fatty liver disease occurs when the liver has trouble breaking down fats and then causes fats to build up in your liver disease tissue. Additional root causes of disease include medications, both over the counter and pharmaceuticals, viral hepatitis, autoimmune or inherited liver disease, fast weight loss, and malnutrition. There are also risk factors that increase your chances for fatty liver: obesity, gastric bypass surgery, high cholesterol, high levels of triglycerides in the blood, type 2 diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. Sleep apnea. My husband has sleep apnea, so he wears his Darth Vader mask when he goes to bed so that it's not impacting his body and his liver. Polycystic ovary syndrome, underactive thyroid, underactive pituitary gland, and then a 206 review shows that it is extremely common in people with undergoing bariatric surgery, from 84 to 96%. It also noted that the disease seems most common amongst men, but increases with older age and with menopause in women. Most people think liver disease only comes from alcohol, and that is not true. But essentially anything that can't be broken down and used for energy ends up in the liver for detoxification. People ask me constantly how to detoxify. You detoxify by eating the rainbow and the non-starchy vegetables. And we'll talk about that more in the last podcast. When you overindulge in alcohol, chemicals, drugs, fried foods, which are fried in GMO omega-6 oils, processed or refined foods, which are white flour, conventional dairy, white sugar, low quality animal products, your liver becomes heavily taxed. Now I want to talk for a second about telomeres. The first time I talked about telomeres was in my Beauty is an Inside Job podcast. Excuse me. Telomeres were something that were discovered by 2 Nobel Prize winning, women who wrote a book about telomeres a couple of years ago, and they play a part in the development and progression of non-alcoholic fatty liver and are an emerging player in advanced liver disease. So let's talk about telomeres. They're the caps on the end of each strand of your DNA that protect your chromosomes like plastic tips on the end of your shoelaces. After a while, just like shoelaces, they become worn and they lose their ability to do their job. If your telomeres start to shorten, you also start to show signs of aging and your body does start to age. So telomeres are important, and the more they learn about them, the more fascinating they are. Lifestyle interventions such as good nutrition, physical activity, and low stress levels are known to prevent telomere shortening, and they decrease the risk of chronic conditions in the elderly. It also indicates that ultra-processed foods are linked to accelerated shortening of telomeres and cell aging. So if you want to stay young and you want to look young, also treat your telomeres with respect and take care of them. Avoid processed foods. It's so important that you cook. It's the only way that you control what goes into your body. So buy real food, buy organic vegetables and plant food, and buy species specific meat like grass fed, grass finished beef, lamb who only likes grass, pastured pork, and then pastured free run chickens, and eat eggs from pastured free run chickens. Cage free is not the same thing. They're crammed together in tiny little space. They file off their beaks and their feet, and you don't want to be eating those cage free chickens and cage free eggs because they're loaded with stress hormones because they're treated so poorly. And trust me, you have enough stress hormones of your own. So make sure you're eating meat that is eating his own species specific diet. So what is fatty liver disease? It's a common health problem that results from the buildup of extra fat in the liver. It's totally normal for the liver to contain a small amount of fat, but when fat storage reaches 5 to 15%, 5 to 15% is when the problem begins and a person begins to have fatty liver. The severity of fatty liver is a grade 1, a grade 2, or a grade 3. Grade 2 is more serious and more likely to cause symptoms as compared to grade 1. And a lot of times people have grade 1 and are unaware that they have it. The more fat in your liver, the higher the grade, and the more likely for fatty liver to cause problems. And there are different kinds of fatty liver disease. There's non-alcoholic and there's alcoholic. And those two main forms of fatty liver disease, non-alcoholic and alcoholic liver disease, are both very similar in terms of how dangerous they are for the body. People have a buildup of fat in the liver that's not caused by alcohol use when it's non-alcoholic fatty liver. The buildup of fat and the damage to the liver is similar, but it's not directly linked to consuming large quantities of alcohol. So what is considered a large quantity of alcohol? It's more than 1 drink a day on an average for a woman and more than 2 drinks a day on an average for a man. Fatty liver disease symptoms. Now that you know what fatty liver is, let's take a look at some of the ways you can identify the disease by knowing the common fatty liver disease symptoms. But it's important to note that it's possible to have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease without the symptoms. I didn't know I had a fatty liver until I went for a ultrasound for something else. And she came back to my doctor and said, whoa, I had a fatty liver. So I've been trying to help my liver ever since. And sometime soon I'm going to have to go for a new scan and see if I've had any impact to reduce the fat in my liver. What are signs of a fatty liver? Fatigue, weakness, loss of appetite, nausea, abdominal pain. I was starting to get pains when I laid on the right side of my body at night. I would wake up with burping and agita, and it was all coming from where my liver was. Funny how that worked, but I didn't realize it was fatty liver. A swelling in my upper abdomen, spider-like blood vessels. I didn't have a big problem with that, but my mother sure did. Itching. I have itching all the time. Jaundice. I went jaundice when I had mononucleosis in my 20s. And jaundice is yellowing of the skin or the eyes. and it was like my skin color was totally different than my makeup when I had jaundice, so you can't miss it. A buildup of fluid and swelling of the legs, which is edema, and abdomen. I've had edema for years. That should have told me that something was not right. And mental confusion. So how do you know if you have it? There are blood tests that might detect it and might not. You can find it on an ultrasound. And if your test comes back abnormal from an ultrasound, then you're in trouble. So you need to pay attention. But even if your test comes back normal, your blood test, you might not be out of the woods. It's important to note that a liver function test does not always detect a fatty liver. An ultrasound is more sensitive. So how do you know? If you eat a lot of sugar and flour, if you have belly fat, if you crave carbs, you probably have a fatty liver. To heal that fatty liver and avoid its vast detrimental repercussions, you want to get to the root of the problem. And if your blood test comes back abnormal, take it seriously, for God's sakes. Even if the test comes back normal, don't think you're off the hook. It doesn't always detect a fatty liver, and the ultrasound is more sensitive. So why is this a problem? A fatty liver creates an entire cascade of issues. It causes inflammation in your body, and the inflammation creates insulin resistance and prediabetes, and then diabetes, which causes your body to deposit fat not just in your liver, but around all your organs and in your belly. That dangerous belly fat caused by sugar and starch in your diet creates more problems. It causes you to have high triglycerides and low HDL, which is the good cholesterol. It causes you to have small LDL, which is the dangerous cholesterol particles that cause heart attacks. As I said, there's a new test that will tell you if you have the little cholesterol or the big chunks. I have the little cholesterol. Another reason that I need to do all these lifestyle changes to help my body function. In fact, a fatty liver puts you at a great risk for having a heart attack. Remember the connection between the liver and the heart. And most people have no idea that they have fatty liver. Certain populations, like Latin Americans, have a much higher risk of having a fatty liver. When you have a fatty liver, you need to think about the damage that it's causing. You don't want to end up with a liver transplant. You don't want to end up needing to be on medications to fix the complications of a fatty liver, like high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, and abnormal cholesterol and high triglycerides. You want to get to the root of the problem. I promise you, you don't want a fatty liver. You need a healthy liver to help you deal with all the junk and the chemicals that you're going to come in contact with, no matter how vigilant you are in your own home and your own life. When you have a healthy liver, your body stays healthy, you don't get sick, and you can feel good. And trust me, it feels good to feel good, which is what I want for everything. So liver damage creates the following liver disease symptoms. You may or may not have these, but I want you to know about them. You might feel tired, you might feel fatigued, you might have sudden weight loss, should be my problem. You might have loss of appetite, you might have weakness, you might have nausea, you might have confusion, you might have trouble concentrating, you might have pain on the right side part of your belly, which we just discussed. You might have an enlarged liver, you might have bloating and gas, you might have dark urine, you might have bruising, you might have excessive sweat, you might have constipation, and you might have dry and dark particles on your neck and under your arms. Now, for proper pooping, you need to make sure your magnesium levels are proper. That can help that process along. But if you have fatty liver disease, you might have a problem being regular. And that's important because you need to be going after every time you eat. Remember that. Okay, there are some really simple things you can do with diet, exercise, supplements, and lifestyle changes, which is what we're going to concentrate on. Start to trade out the items that you use in your home for lower toxic items. The easiest way to do that is to start with my book. I share how I researched, what I found, and what I replaced it with. And then you're going to write to me. I'm going to send you the workbook. You're going to write it all down, and you're going to replace each toxic item as you run out of it for the item you wrote down in the workbook. The place you do your research is ewg.org or the Environmental Working Group. They're the same people that put out the Dirty Dozen Clean 15 list. And if it's on the dirty part of that vegetable list, that's where you spend your organic money. You're going to start doing 3-minute stress releasing exercises intermittently throughout the day. I do one mid-morning and one mid-afternoon, and I often will utilize my breathing exercises. As I said, there's a chapter in both my books about stress. I had so little cortisol when I got sick, I was almost to Addison's disease. So figuring out how to let the top off of my stress before it was chronic was critical. And so I came up with all these little exercises you can choose from that will bring you back to a normal stress level, which is important. Okay, this one is big. The most important change you can make to your diet is to stop drinking pop or soda. Both the ones with sugar and the ones with fake sugars are wreaking horrible havoc on your liver. What are you going to do to replace it? You're going to buy big glass half-gallon bottles and you're going to fill them up with the filtered water from your kitchen sink, and you're going to stuff it with things like organic frozen fruit and a little bit of stevia, and that's what you're going to drink from all day. It's delicious. It's much better tasting than soda pop, and it's much better for your body. You're getting nutrients from the berries, and you're getting good, clean water to hydrate your body, which the pop or the sodas are not. You're going to cut out all the high fructose corn syrup and all of the cane syrup, which comes from beets, which is genetically modified. They're not good for your liver, they're not good for your body, and you're going to find a way to detox off of sugar so that it no longer has a hold on you like you're a drug addict. You can take my detox course, or you can take somebody else's, or you can research it on your own, but you need to break your addiction to sugar, and then it's much easier to follow the rest of this. And sugar is in all kinds of places, so start learning to read labels. 4 grams of sugar equals 1 teaspoon. So how much do you think is in a 12-ounce soda? 20 grams. There's also 20, or I think it's 12 grams, 12 teaspoons. You need to make sure that you get off the soda and off of fruit juice, because it's also loaded with sugar without the fiber to slow it down. So it's addicting for you too. So if you want fruit, and I recommend you eat fruit because it's good for you, eat it with its fiber. Eat apples, eat berries, and then sporadically eat the other vegetables, the other fruits, because they're good for you. And eat grapefruit, because grapefruit is really good for your liver. Remember, there is sugar in salad dressings and ketchup and tomato sauces. Tomato sauce can have more sugar in it than a serving of Oreo cookies. Get rid of all that high fructose corn syrup from your diet, 100%, no exceptions. It's killing you, so get rid of it. And one of the reasons to get rid of processed food is they're loaded with all these things, so get rid of them. Reduce or eliminate starch. Get rid of white processed flour. Even whole grain flours can be a problem. It's common to find too many of these starchy foods in the SAD, Standard American Diet, and all of those things promote a fatty liver. You will not be surprised to find out it's not fat that causes a fatty liver, it's sugar. And some good things, add good things to your diet to heal you. Add plenty of organic fruit, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, lean animal protein like fish and chicken. And remember, it's species specific meat and wild caught fish. Add good oils like olive oil, macadamia nut oil, avocados. They're really good for you and they're loaded with fiber. Coconut butter and fish oil. Good fats like the omega-6 fats are anti-inflammatory and help you repair your liver. Eat detoxifying liver repairing superfoods. And the ones to concentrate on, we'll go into what exactly they do for your body in the second podcast on the liver, but the cruciferous family like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and leafy vegetables like kale, collards, cabbage, arugula, and watercress are all great for your liver. Make sure you eat at least a cup or 2 every day to help heal and repair the liver. Garlic and onions are amazing sulfur-rich foods that can help detoxify the body. And power up with protein. both for when you're doing your sugar detox and every morning. Start with protein at every meal, especially breakfast, where it becomes key to balancing your blood sugar and insulin, cutting your cravings, and providing your liver with the raw materials it needs to detox optimally. A serving size is just 4 ounces, so you don't have to have a huge amount. So make that the great equalizer to the expense of that huge chunk of meat you used to put on your plate to the little 4 ounces that will give your body the amino acids that it needs from the protein that you're eating. Improve your metabolism by moving, exercise. This is a fabulous way to improve your insulin resistance and reduce your fatty liver. And then supplement intelligently. The whole third podcast in this series is going to be on supplementation. And I'm going to share with you what supplements I use to help my liver. And then you're going to talk to your doctor to see if you can be using the same ones. Again, sadly, most people have no idea that they have a fatty liver. So we're now even seeing 12-year-old boys, especially with fatty livers, because they've guzzled soda for years, and they now also need liver transplants. Terrible. Fructose, the primary sweetener in sodas, is a key player in the ever-increasing rates of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And then you also have all the kids are being born with heavy toxic load and their little bodies can't handle it. So know what you're eating before you even conceive is going to impact your child. 267 toxins are in the umbilical cord when the child is born. So he's starting off with a heavy toxic load right from the beginning. And then there's toxins everywhere that he is. So for the love of your child, learn how to feed him a non-toxic diet and have non-toxic products around him, including stuff like Johnson & Johnson baby powder, which ends up is toxic. So research everything before you go near your child with it. And doctors then prescribe numerous medications to alleviate all the things that are being caused by all the toxins. So make sure you're aware of what the medications themselves are doing for you as well. Sugar, not fat, creates a fatty liver. And unlike carbohydrates and protein, dietary fat does not trigger your pancreas to secrete insulin or stress out your liver. Your body prefers to burn rather than store dietary fat. So unless you combine it with carbs, when you eat the right fats, which are the omega-3s, then you increase your metabolism, stimulate fat burning, and you decrease hunger. To prevent or reverse fatty liver, you want to cut processed carbs and increase healthy fat intake, especially saturated. Yep, saturated fats that are omega-3s from healthy foods like coconut and grass-fed beef. Healthy saturated fats lower inflammation when you eat them as part of a low-carb, high-fiber, omega-3 fatty acid-rich diet. Okay, if the fatty liver gets really sick, then it gets cirrhosis, and then it's life-threatening. So we want to catch it before you get there. And drinking large amounts of alcohol is one of the fastest ways to damage or destroy your liver. Combined with prescription over-the-counter medications, cigarettes, and poor diet makes it even more harmful. Okay. Other causes of liver disease. Drug overdoses, acetaminophen, Tylenol is really hard on the liver. And so that with your pharmaceuticals, you want to limit them. You want to only take them in the prescribed amounts. You don't want to take too much, and you want to limit it as much as possible. And let's go through what the different hepatitises are because I did not know this. So I think it's important. Hepatitis A is by eating or drinking something that's tainted with fecal matter. It's when people get it from eating food that's been contaminated with the virus. You may not have any symptoms, and yet it's usually self-limiting, and you usually will get better. Hepatitis B, you get from somebody else who's had unprotected sex or taken drugs with shared needles. It's a virus that could be very, very dangerous. I interviewed a woman who cured her Hep B with Mindset, and it's no longer in her body, but it's really hard to get rid of. And surgeons get contaminated by someone else's blood that goes through their gloves. The gloves break and they get a cut, and that's how they get it. And if it lasts longer than 6 months, you're likely to get liver cancer. Hep C comes from infected blood that gets into your blood. You might get it through drugs with shared needles or in connection with HIV. And if you're a healthcare worker, you can get it from an infected needle that accidentally sticks you. The majority of patients with Hep C get it from blood transfusions in hospitals, but a lot of people get it from intravenous drug use. Symptoms may not show up for years, but if for reasons that aren't clear, baby boomers like me are at risk for Hep C and should be tested for it. And then there's one more Hep, and that's hepatitis E, which spreads through poop. So you can catch it if you eat or drink something that's been in contact with the stool of someone who has the virus. So always wash your hands well. We all learned how to wash our hands really well with hot, soapy water to avoid getting Corona 19, and make sure you do that also for the Hep viruses. You can also get Hep E from eating undercooked meat from pigs and deer, and less often from raw shellfish that comes from tainted water. Cancer and tumors. If cancer shows up in your liver, it's most likely because it spread from another part of your body, like your lungs, your colon, or your breast. But a few actually start in your liver. There is a really famous woman named Kris Carr, who discovered she had stage 4 liver cancer in 2006. And she's written a series of books called Crazy Sexy Cancer, which is all about the lifestyle changes she did to control her cancer of the liver, and she's still alive and she is in remission. So it can happen. So if you have liver cancer, I'd strongly recommend you buy her books and you pay attention to what she has to say, and you listen to this podcast again and listen to what I have to say, because together with the lifestyle changes that the two of us are recommending are really good for you. Liver cancer affects women more often than men. Now remember that fatty alcohol liver is more common in men, or alcoholic liver, fatty liver is more common in men, but liver cancer is more common in women, and African Americans more often than whites, and also in Latin American women more than in whites. Bile duct cancer strikes the tubes that run from your liver to your small intestine to carry bile, a fluid that helps you digest food. And this kind of liver affects people over the age of 50, but it's uncommon. And there's also a liver tumor that's not cancerous, but it comes from taking birth control pills for too long. Who would have thunk? And there's a small chance that those tumors could become cancerous as well. Infections, including Epstein-Barr and mononucleosis, are part of the reason why the liver gets unhealthy. Something that makes the liver unique and amazing is its ability to regenerate after it's become damaged. In fact, it's capable of doing this more than any other organ in the body. Tissue that's been scarred or damaged can be replaced with healthy liver tissue grows and takes its place. This occurs with the help of growth factors, keratins, and matrix remodeling. In extreme cases, even if only 25% of the liver remains, regeneration can still happen. Body's really an amazing thing. When the liver becomes so badly scarred that healthy cells can no longer grow back, then you have liver failure. If someone undergoes a living donor transplant, a portion of a donor's liver replaces the patient's diseased liver and regenerates and grows back to full size. When somebody undergoes a living donor transplant, a portion of that can cure your alcoholic liver disease. So, but if before you have the liver transplant, there is a doctor who is using L-alpha lopaic acid. And so do your research and see what your options are, and then have a robust conversation with your doctor. You can take our alpha lopaic acid on your own, and it will help the health of your liver, but you should not be taking it in the huge amounts that this doctor is recommending and having wonderful success healing really diseased livers with. Cirrhosis is when the scar tissue replaces the healthy cells in the liver and results in long-term damage that leads to permanent scarring. Okay, acute liver failure causes: genetically modified Bt insecticidal corn alters biochemistry, which causes liver damage in animal studies. And the only difference in GM corn versus non-GM corn is the genetic modification. So the effects seen in the GM-fed rats was due to the genetically modified process and not other factors. So that's a reason to avoid genetically modified foods. I have a card on my website that talks about all the foods that have been in part by category genetically modified. So be aware of what they are. Soy is 93% genetically modified. Canola is almost all genetically modified. You don't want Bt toxin in you, or you don't want it heavily sprayed with Roundup. Now that we know that Roundup causes cancer, and we know that Monsanto has known that for 20 years. So stay away from GMOs. They're not good for you. Buy things that say they are GMO free. If you're going to be eating foods that have things in them, there's an actual label. Look it up so that you can identify which things are genetically modified free and which things are genetically modified. And then there is Tylenol or acetaminophen overdose, which is because it's in all kinds of things. It's in cold medications. We're taking it for pain. We're taking it with alcohol, which is really god awful. I did for years, and so my liver is yelling at me for it. So it is known as one of the leading pain relievers. It's in every medicine cabinet right next to ibuprofen, which is really hard on your stomach, by the way. It's in heart drugs and hormones and other drugs. And so you want to make sure that, and frankly, don't take it. I stopped taking it. I use curcumin. It works as well or better. And I'm much happier taking the curcumin because it's the gift that gives good things to my body and not the thing that's causing my liver problems. Antibiotics cause trouble to the liver. Antidepressants cause trouble to the liver. Antifungal drugs cause trouble for the liver. Antipsychotic drugs and acid reflux medication all cause trouble for the liver. So beware, know what you're taking, research it, and understand how it's going to impact your body. All medications give something good and take it something away. So I'm trying to avoid as much medication as possible. These are my final thoughts on the liver. Liver failure occurs when the liver stops working the way that it should, and it simply can't catch up. This causes toxins to start to build up in the body, and it can be deadly if it's not treated. So my next podcast in the It Feels Good to Feel Good part of my podcast will be on foods that you can eat to support your liver. So now you understand why the liver is so important and all the many things that your liver does for your body and how it interacts with everything else in your body. So next we're going to move to foods that you need to be eating to support your liver, because those are things that you control, and you can control the health of your liver. Thank you for hanging in there for me with all of this. I know it's a long podcast, but I really wanted you to hear all of this because it's important. I want you to give your liver love and respect because it deserves it for what it does for you. So thank you very much. And I hope you come back and follow me and listen to my next podcast on the liver, which will be things that we eat that support it. My next podcast will probably be another Tell Me Your Story podcast, which is an interview of another person who, like me, got sick and then owned it and made lifestyle changes to come back to health. And I do those podcasts to also give you hope. And I'm really loving them because I'm meeting some remarkable people. So I hope you're following my podcast, and I hope you'll return next time. Thank you so much. See you again soon. Bye.